And we are live. Welcome to the Thursday night phone tech talk live stream. If you haven't been here before, this is where we get on YouTube once a week and talk about phones and other tech related topics. My name is Mike. I'm with Go Cell Phone Repair, and I have a channel where we do tutorial videos, also commentary, a few product reviews here and there, blah, blah, blah. You know the routine for anyone who's been here already. What's really trippy is I actually got a chat from like 5 minutes ago, and I don't even know how that's possible without the stream actually starting, but there was someone on here, which is really cool. But anyways, let's get to this stuff that's going on this week. Before I jump right into the phone topics, there are a couple things that I just wanted to talk about briefly, and anyone who's been here before knows that I pretty much bring these up just about every week, but I think it's really important, especially now, considering that today was supposed to be the national day of protesting the repeal of net neutrality at Verizon stores. So if any of you are there or have photos that you can share, anything like that, please send them to me. I'd love to get that on here. You know, I think the more media that we have in regards to this or related to this, the better, the more awareness that we can bring. And there's just a lot of people out there who don't really follow this stuff, and one of the reasons is that the media doesn't really cover it very well, and when they do, they're obviously very biased because everything that's broadcasted, including YouTube now, we're seeing more and more, is heavily influenced by the people who pay for the advertising, which makes sense. I mean, that's kind of the way it works. But when advertisers are able to lobby so heavily that they can change the laws, you know, and go completely against what's in the best interest of their customers and of American citizens, while everyone's protesting and you know, signing petitions and calling Congress people and telling them we do not want this to happen, and they say, yeah, well, we heard you, we know you don't want it, whatever, and then they go ahead and vote for it. So it's going to be a tough one. You know, I've kind of said this from the beginning. It's always an uphill battle when you have to kind of compete with companies who have lots and lots of money. So one of the things that you can do, if you look, let's see, it's going to be on my left over here. If you go to battleforthenet.com, they have a form to fill out. It's very simple. There's not much to it. You know, you don't have to write a letter or compose your own email. All you have to do is fill in a couple of fields, and you press a button, and it will automatically tell you a bunch of different things. You know, they have information on their page that tells you which Congress people are voting for and against net neutrality repeal, and they will tell you, you know, state by state, these are the legislatures, these are the people that represent you and what they're doing. And, you know, it may sound like it all falls on deaf ears at this time, but at least we can say, hey, you know what, next time it comes, you know, time for an election, here's how I feel about this. And if you vote against it, it's going to be on public record. Everyone's going to know what you do. And maybe they won't do anything. And maybe something else is going to have to change to stop this. Because right now it looks like it's got, you know, quite a bit of momentum, despite the fact that people are protesting it. So do yourself a favor. Do everyone a favor. What we don't want to see is a future where you have to pay for every single service that you have, not to the person that's providing it, but to the medium that it comes through. So if you have to go to Verizon or Comcast or anyone else and say, oh, hey, I'd like to add YouTube to my internet account, and they say, oh, okay, that's going to be an extra $10 a month. Oh, well, I'm paying Netflix $10 a month for Netflix, and they say, well, that's fine, but now you get to pay us another $10 to have Netflix come through at full speed. So despite the fact that they keep saying, don't worry, we're not going to throttle your bandwidth, we would never do that, at the same time, they're lobbying the FCC and saying, we really need to be able to do that. Even though we'll never do it, we need to pass a law that allows us to do that. And really the arguments for repealing net neutrality are, you know, have been disproven in quite a few cases where they say, well, we need to be able to get these laws out of the way so that we can build infrastructure, so that people will invest in it. And the fact is, people are investing in the infrastructure and they are building it out. And it just, like, a lot of what they're saying doesn't make sense. But what it does do is to give them more control over the services that you get. So if you think about it this way, we have, and I'm all for free enterprise, and I'm all for capitalism, and I'm all for people working hard and providing services and being able to get paid for what they do. But think about this for a minute. You know, we have telecommunications laws. In fact, most telecommunications, or many telecommunications, I should say, are considered utilities, and they're governed for a reason. And I want to pull something up here real quick so I can see what's going on. Hey, Vernil, how's it going? John, how are you? Hey, guys, I'll be in the chat in just a second. I just want to wrap this topic up really quick. So what I wanted to do is kind of help people understand this because, you know, I talk to people that I know, and there's just kind of this apathy about the whole topic, and I don't think people are going to realize until it comes through what's going on here. And think of it this way. You know, we have laws that govern telecommunications because a long-distance company, you know, when they used to have those, or a phone company cannot tell you that you're allowed to call this person, and this person, but if you call this one other person, you have to pay extra for that because that's considered, you know, that's what we do. You know, we allow you to use your phone, so we get to pick and choose who you get to call and how much you get to pay for that. That's kind of a very simplistic analogy to what repealing net neutrality would allow for big companies to do when they handle broadband. And a lot of people will say, well, you know, if you don't like your broadband provider, just switch to someone else. Well, there's a lot of the population, myself included, who does not have that option. I have one place that I can go to get broadband, to have the ability to do live streaming like this. Like I had to upgrade my plan to get this. And if this net neutrality repeal or whatever it is they're doing to make it go away happens, then they can come back and say, oh, you want to live stream? You want to have that fast upload speed to YouTube? Well, now you have to pay another premium because of what it is that you're doing with your internet, if that makes sense. So I understand, you know, we have to pay for extra bandwidth, but for them to pick and choose what we get access to and be able to restrict things, which is going to you know, be very difficult for anyone who wants to compete with them. You know, if I want to offer a streaming service, but Verizon doesn't own a piece of it, they can charge my customers a premium to access my content, which is insane. Even though I want to give it away free, even though I want everyone to see it, they can actually charge whatever they want, you know, when this thing happens, if and when it does. So anyways, I know I've gone on a long time about that, so I will go over to the comments here real quick. In fact, I'm going to bring the chat in here this time. Last week, for whatever reason, I got distracted and I did not have the chat on the screen so that we could all see it. So where is my chat? It's supposed to be on the screen. Here we go. So my chat is got to be configured improperly because it's not showing up. Wow, what an amateur this guy is. Give me 1 second here. That's not it. All right, let's try this. I have another plan, plan B. Let's see if we can get this chat on here. Making me crazy. That is so bizarre. Okay, guys, I have a chat that is not showing up inside of my window here for some reason. Okay, let's do this. Let's remove. This is really bizarre. Oh, there it is. Got to scroll down. Okay, Mike, you can do it. It won't let me move it, though, for some odd reason. Okay, so Mike, I see your comment. Where are all the other comments going? This is so bizarre. Let's do this. Yeah, that helped, right? I thought I had everything thought out today, friends, and for some reason, it is just not. There's something blocking it. Let's move the chat up for a second so we can see that, and then we'll try to see if I can get my camera in here. Not that you all came here to see my face, but it's kind of nice to be able to let's do this. Oh, I see. I'm just blocking it with my image. So, gosh darn it. I spent so much time trying to make this look good for you. And now it won't let me move the chat box for some bizarre reason. Okay. Now I'm all messed up. All right, can we go and stop doing that? Man, I am so frustrated. I spent so much time getting this set up, and now it glitches out on me. Okay, well, I'm going to read the comments. Good night. Vernil. Hello, Mike. Mike Smirka. I hope I pronounced that properly. John Cassidy. Do you use an ESD wristband while fixing screens? No. And I'll give you a long explanation to that in just a second, but I don't. In fact, I don't generally use an ESD wristband for anything where I work because it is not an environment where static electricity is an issue. I have never damaged a phone due to electrostatic discharge. I do use an ESD mat for the phone to sit on, but for the most part, depending on what you're doing, if you're not building up static electricity where you're at, it's not generally an issue with phones for the most part. Now, if you're going into direct contact with something Like if you work on computers, you know, if you go near the RAM or the processor and you don't ground yourself to the case like nonstop or have an ESD wristband on, you can definitely run into some problems. But if you take a look at the way that a phone is put together on the inside, it would be very difficult. You know, everything's insulated, everything's shielded. The entire logic board is grounded. There are shields all over the place that go to ground. So it's pretty unlikely, you know, in my opinion anyways, and in my experience, I have never seen a phone damaged from electrostatic discharge. I'm sure there's an exception to that rule. But to answer your question, I don't. I don't even bother, and I really don't think that it's I don't think it's a problem. You know, I've never heard of anyone having trouble with that before. Now, that said, I've lived in environments. One good example is if you live in the desert. When I lived in Las Vegas, it was very dry, and during the fall season, if you walked across a carpet, you would actually shock yourself if you touched the drywall. Like the drywall on the wall would shock you from walking across a carpet. So in that environment, you know, even though I don't think it would be a problem, I would probably wear an ESD wristband all the time. In fact, if I'm ever somewhere where I feel that I touch a piece of metal and it shocks me, yeah, I want to take some sort of protection anytime I'm around electronics. But short answer is no, I don't use ESD, and I really don't think in most situations that it is necessary for the most part. Looking for part for Samsung. Vernil, what kind of part are you looking for? Are you looking for like one part, or are you looking for a supplier? Because there's a difference. And what part is it? You know, if you can give me some specifics, maybe I can steer you in the right direction. And meanwhile, gosh darn it, I wish this chat was working. This is really annoying. Why is it not working? I'm going to go over here one more time. Actually, I do want to move on to the next topic, but in a second, I'm going to give this another shot and see if I can get the chat to work properly in the window. So the next one was YouTube. I didn't want to talk, but you know what? If you guys want to talk phones, that's cool too, because that's what this is all about. How do you apply the waterproofing gasket for the 6S? Here's what you do. First of all, I have a video that shows how to install the waterproofing gasket on the 6S, but there's an easier way. And hold on a second. Let me see if I have one right here. I actually have I think I might actually even have one here. Where is it? Next to 6, S6. You see, I've got all my adhesives kind of organized here. This is for the iPhone 6 and 6S. And I'm not sure if this will help, you know, using it as a visual aid. But these are one of the old ones. Okay, so I have newer gaskets. These gaskets right here, these are terrible because they come off in one piece, and then you just have this one little corner to pull here, right? And then you have to kind of like pull this whole plastic off while you're trying to make sure that the display stays plugged in and everything else while you're putting it together. I found a supplier, and once the live stream is finished, I'll put it down in the video description with a whole bunch of other links, including the sources for the information that I have here. They have a gasket like this that I found one. It's actually for the 7, but I'm sure they have it for the 6S. That you start tearing it from one edge, and it's actually perforated. So as you pull the plastic off, it just unzips like all the way around the perimeter and makes it super, super easy. Like what it does is you set the whole thing down, you pop out the center, and then you're left with the gasket on the inside of the phone that still has the plastic on top of it. And when you get done, you just start here and you go all the way around the outside. And that so far has been the easiest method that I found, so you don't have to worry about the gasket sticking to itself and having all kinds of other weird problems. So that would be my recommendation. Again, I'll put the link down here in the video description after this is over. If you don't see it like by tomorrow, just put a comment up there so I'll remember, because it takes me a little while to go through this and timestamp everything on here, but I'll definitely try to direct you to them. Vernil, did you leave? Because I didn't answer your question. I didn't get what model you're looking for. Also, what quality do you get? As far as the 6S goes, if you're talking about screen quality, we keep two different types in stock. We typically keep an aftermarket and an OEM. So we get basically what is a refurbished, whenever it comes to iPhones, we get a refurbished screen. So basically it's an original LCD with most likely fitted with a new digitizer, polarizer, and glass, because obviously they come from, you know, phones where the glass has been broken. And then we also carry the aftermarket ones because, as you can imagine, people come in and the first thing that they experience is sticker shock when you tell them how much an OEM LCD will be. So we like to give them both options. Now, it took a long time to come to pretty much the point where we decided that that was a good thing to offer, because for the longest time people come in and, you know, even though the guy down the street is doing something, he's using like a $20 screen to do a repair, we want to be competitive, but we always hesitated to put our name on something like that because you and I know they don't look the same. They're not exactly the same quality. They're good enough for a lot of people. But when it comes to Apple, I shouldn't say lately, but I would say, traditionally with Apple customers, they are sometimes very, very picky about the quality of the equipment that they get. But, as more and more people are actually, changing over to Apple and buying iPhones, we have less of that, I don't want to say elite crowd, but less of the crowd that is very demanding about the quality, and they're more concerned with the price. So I know that was a long answer to that question, but we carry both. We carry the Tianmas typically, which in my opinion are probably the better aftermarket LCDs, and then we carry the OEMs, which are fitted with a new piece of glass on them for the most part. Arthur, I'm curious what you think about the budget Chinese phones. Hey Arthur, I saw you earlier and I went to answer your question. I'm really curious as to how you got into the chat. I guess the chat is available before the stream starts. I didn't know that was even a thing. Chinese phones in terms of durability, I got one and so far it is exceeding my expectations. That's cool. What brand is it? I'm really curious because, there's, just saying that it's a budget Chinese phone, there are lots of budget phones from various places, and I would assume that some are better than others. I don't have experience with a lot of them, but I can tell you that a lot of the manufacturers that used to make what we would have considered not only budget, but really, cheap phones, have really upped their quality quite a bit. And the two companies that really stand out to me, within the last 2 or 3 years are Huawei and ZTE, because they started out making, garbage phones. Like, we wouldn't touch them. You take them apart and they don't go back together. And now they've got some pretty, decent phones for what you get for the money. So depending on what brand you're using, I'm sure there's some good ones in there. Hawaii Sidecar, going home in a few. Hey, thanks for coming by. Good to see you. I appreciate that. I know this is probably some other odd time of day for you too, right? Oh, you must be getting off work. Aloha. John Cassidy, what are the defect rates for the aftermarket you use? Are a lot of them defective? Gosh, that is a good question. I would say that at this point, now there's something else I wanted to mention here along with that. Now we do buy the aftermarket screens. We also use a refurbishing service. So we don't do the refurbishing in-house as of yet. I would like to do that in the future, but as you can imagine, that is not only a considerable investment of money, but also time, because it takes time to get good at doing the refurbishing from what I've seen. So we have a small business owner who comes to us, picks up all of our broken screens, and he takes the ones that are OEM, refurbishes them, and brings them back to us, which saves us a little money, over just buying OEM LCDs. As far as the defect rate for the aftermarket ones, gosh, I'd like to give you some solid figures, but if I had to ballpark, I'd say it's under 5%. It's probably somewhere like 3 to 4%, and I could pull up some numbers when I get back to the office and try to figure that out. But I'd say, it's pretty decent if you have a good supplier, a good assembler who's putting them together. For the most part, they're pretty decent. But, worst case, maybe 1 out of 20 we might have a problem with currently. Any good suppliers? Yeah, DeMarcus, that's a question that is kind of difficult for me to answer because for the most part, we buy the majority of our stuff from someone who comes to us, and they actually do have the aftermarket screens. So they don't take orders. Like, you couldn't go online and say, hey, I want to order from this company, because they're very small. Like, they have enough screens probably to sell to 5 or 10 stores, and that's it. Beyond that, I will mention a couple names, and I hope that nobody ever makes me regret it, but to the best of my knowledge, everyone that I've talked to, and I'm not affiliated with these companies, but I have been told many good things about Injured Gadgets. If you want to check them out, their website is injuredgadgets.com, and also Mobile Centrics. So that's Mobile Centrics with an X at the end. Check those out, also mobilecentrics.com. From what I've heard, both of those companies have really good quality screens. Again, please don't quote me. This is what I've been told. I've only done business with them like a couple of times, so I don't buy a lot of quantity, but they seem to have good reputations. You might want to check into them if you're looking for people to buy screens from. It's a Hey Fury UMax. I think it's partnered with Qbot. I wish I could tell you something about that. I'm not familiar with that brand. I don't have any experience with their phones, but I'll say this, if it works for you, You know, there's no reason to really have a perception that something's not good quality just because it's not a really well-known brand. You know, I'm for competition and other people pushing good products out, and I hope that they do. And I'm just not familiar with that brand, Arthur. But if it's working for you, you know, why not? Probably the only challenge to the very inexpensive brand phones is that if and when they do break, a lot of them are designed to be disposable, so you don't go looking for replacement parts for them. To give you an example, I'll have customers come in and ask me if I have replacement parts for blue phones, you know, BLU. I want to say they're either I think they're Chinese. They're either Chinese or Indian, but they make a very inexpensive phone. You can buy it for a very small amount of money, and when it breaks, you just are going to get another phone because it doesn't make sense to repair a $75 or $100 phone. You know, there's just no point really in doing it in this market. Now, that may be different in other parts of the world. I understand that, you know, depending on where you're at, the rate of labor kind of makes a big difference. And in the US, we can't really justify repairing a phone under a certain dollar amount because of the time invested, you know, having to put a warranty on the part, trying to source the part. A lot of times they don't make replacement parts for those. So that's another tricky one there. I have a Chinese Skype girl I get iPhone screens from. Yeah, and you know, really, if you're in the phone business, I don't know how this happens. Maybe if I went onto a couple of forums somewhere, or maybe they found me some other way, but you'll probably start getting flooded with emails from China. They usually start out with "Hello, dear." That's kind of the greeting, their interpretation of a greeting that they've come up with, which I find humorous. I'm not making fun of them. I just think it's interesting how you know, try to translate things from Google or whatever, and it doesn't come out exactly the way we use it. But you'll get a lot of "Hello, dear" emails soliciting you for parts. I dealt with a company in China recently that wanted me to try out their screens and sent me some. And if you take a look at my channel, there's actually a video where I did a review on their iPhone 7 aftermarket screen, and so far it has held up. I'm actually using the phone as a camera right now, but that LCD works great. It doesn't look exactly like the OEM, but I'm very happy with it. I have a 6S that they sent me, 6S LCD that I'll be installing probably sometime this week, and then I'll make another follow-up video. And in the video of that review, you can actually get their contact information. It is like a WhatsApp or a Skype number, which is, I guess, how they like to be contacted. When it comes to iPad, do you do aftermarket or premium for both? On the iPads, we do OEM on the LCDs. That's the only thing that I'm aware of. I don't think you can buy an aftermarket LCD, and we always do aftermarket on the digitizers and have had I won't say zero, have had very few problems. There's good quality digitizers for iPads, not a big deal. If you're talking about something like, iPad minis, yeah, I'll do aftermarket all the time. In fact, as you probably know, like the first two generations, iPad Mini 1 and Mini 2, they're the same digitizer. And we buy them from a number of different suppliers, and I have not, you know, seen a defect rate. The big catch there is, of course, making sure that you have that insulating tape at the bottom of the digitizer, because if you don't, they will glitch out. Serials start talking for no reason. You know, the home button, you have to make sure that the home button's installed properly, otherwise they start to sync over time. But outside of that, I have complete confidence in the digitizers on the iPad minis. And as far as the LCDs themselves, I don't think you can get aftermarket. At least I haven't used one yet. We've always gone OEM, and they're typically pulled from other devices that have some other sort of problem. All right, I'm going to try to get this chat to show up, because I think that if people come on here later, they might be more interested in seeing your questions. There we go. Now, why is it working now? Of course, it's behind me, but let's see if we can fix this. Let's see if we can do that. Man, I was going to come on here and look like I knew what I was doing, and this thing is just killing me today. Where are you? Where's my background? Here we go. Let's move that up. There we go. All right, so that's somewhat decent, right? Now everyone can see the comments. I don't know what happened there. Let's see. Do you use your own adhesive or the included one? And if so, what adhesive do you use? I never use the adhesive that comes pre-installed on the tablets. In my experience, it's terrible. So 3 things probably I would recommend. One is that if you completely remove all of the old adhesive, and gosh darn it, if I have one of these pens here, let me think. Excuse me for just a second. I might have it really close by. If I do, I'm going to grab it. right. It's tucked away somewhere. So 3M makes these little disposable, I want to call it a pen. You know, it's the size of a pen, and it's got a primer for adhesive built inside of the pen. So you kind of shake it up, and when you open it up, it's got a little spongy tip, and that will dispense the primer that's inside. So once you've cleaned off 100% all of the residue that's on the frame of the iPad, and you apply that primer before you put the adhesive on. As far as the adhesive, I will typically either use the Red Tape brand. It's literally called Red Tape Adhesive with a little trademark on it. I'll also use the Tesa or Tesa tape. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. It's T-E-S-A. And those work really well. Now, one thing that I did recently, again, and I'm not just trying to push you to my channel, but I actually made a video where a company had sent me a food saver. You know, those little vacuum sealers. And if I have to mail something out and people want it back in a hurry, I find that putting the tablet after it's all together, the adhesive is installed, everything's laying down flat, there's no problems with the cables. That's the other one, of course, is getting the cable tucked in. I put that thing in a food saver and vacuum pack it and just tell them it's being shipped like that with the vacuum pack on it. When it gets there, you just open it up, and that will help keep the glass pushed down onto the frame until the adhesive cures. So that's the best method that I've found so far to get those things to stick. So I know they're a headache. 9 out of 10 times though, when someone comes to me with a problem where their tablet glass is lifting off the top, the digitizer or whatever, it's usually because there's a cable that's not tucked in properly somewhere, or there's something else pushing up behind the glass, or the frame's bent, or the corners haven't been rounded out properly, because those are, you know, there's really no reason for that screen to just pop off on its own unless somebody's picking at it. So there's usually an underlying cause, and that's pressure that's coming up behind the screen. So if you don't have that, it shouldn't be a big deal, but just to be sure that that stuff gets a chance to cure properly, if you use that 3M primer, and I will also include that in the link, put some primer on there, or just use some good isopropyl alcohol, get it nice and clean, and Tesa tape or Red Tape works really well. LSD glass and screen for Samsung. SEH 2016. So if you're just looking for like a one-time purchase, Vernil, like you just need one part, that's kind of a tough one, because most of the suppliers, I would say this, if they carry it, try Injured Gadgets. You will probably, however, end up paying a lot for shipping. Like a good percentage of the purchase price is going to be shipping, because they're shipping you out one little package, and they're not really in business for doing that. They're more for wholesaling. Doesn't mean they won't sell to anyone. I don't know. I assume they sell to the public, but usually the shipping is going to be the issue if you're just buying like one item. So in that case, I will often go to eBay, and yes, I said it, and everyone in the business just shuddered because everyone hates eBay. I understand that, but keep in mind that a lot of vendors who sell wholesale parts also sell parts on eBay. The trick is really to find out who you're dealing with. So I will buy parts on eBay if I feel that that's a reputable seller. I don't have a list of them that I can give to you right now, but if you check people's feedback and they have 99.2, or 99.0 and above, and they've sold like 5,000 items or more, you're usually pretty safe, first of all. Secondly, when you buy on eBay, and this is one reason I don't sell too many things on eBay, and that is because you are very well protected as a buyer. If you make a purchase and you're not happy, as long as you don't do anything crazy like damage the screen yourself while you're installing it, they're usually pretty good about backing up the buyer. So, you contact the person that sold it, and most sellers on eBay are very concerned with their feedback. Obviously, it's going to be very difficult if you deal with someone from outside the country. So I do recommend you try to find a domestic seller if you're buying parts on eBay for your phone. And if you do, first of all, if you have a problem with it, quality-wise, they should be very concerned about it, because every eBay seller wants to protect their reputation. And secondly, even if they don't cooperate with you, you have quite a few ways to dispute the transaction, or get a return or refund or something replaced. So in the case of a one-time purchase, that's probably going to be your second best option. The first best option would be to go to a phone store and see if they'll sell you one, but most phone stores don't like selling parts to customers. So I hope that helps you find that. What is the best size tape for iPad mini? Wow, you're picking my brain right now. I want to say that on the Red Tape adhesive, I believe it is 12 millimeters. Oh boy, what is it? Actually, hold on a second. Hold on. If you're going to make me do this, I have to go get it. Just a second. And for anyone who just came across this channel, like, what is this guy doing? Okay, so for iPad mini, I use this one right here. This is the Tesa tape or Tesa tape or however you say it. And this one is, this is going to be a 6mm, and that will cover most of the sides. And then you'll have to figure out a way to fill in the small gaps. So you may have to do, you know, some carving or some cutting with a good pair of scissors. I also happen to have a 4mm. So between those two, you can probably work it out to where it will be, where it'll fit, you know, pretty close. And then for the full-size iPads, I use the red tape. This is the 12mm, and for me, I think it's 12mm. Let's double check. Yeah, so this is a 12mm, and those are the ones that I keep on hand. Now, they have smaller sizes, and I recommend if you're going to be doing a lot of repairs, you should probably get a good variety. You know, try to get, like, if you can, get at least one 1mm. Get a 4mm, a 6, and either a 10 or a 12, and that'll probably keep you, probably take care of most of the stuff that you're working with. Interesting thing is that I found one of these, and I don't remember if it was the 4 or the 6, but I found one of these Tesa tapes at Fry's Electronics, which really surprised me. So they sell them, and I think they're kind of under like the iFixit brand name, but it is the same double-sided black tape, and that stuff's really sticky. But stock up, you know, they're not that expensive unless you buy like the huge rolls. Those are like 40 bucks a piece. But if you buy a small roll like this, they're probably about $7, $8, and I would get at least, you know, like a 1mm, probably a 4, a 6, and maybe a 10 or a 12. Big Clive did a review of the Cubot H1 phablet, and he sold me on giving them a try. I'm not sure how I was able to comment before the chat started. That's cool. Good. Thanks for answering me. I was just really weird because I came in, I actually left the room, and I came back, and there was a comment, and I started wondering if I was like streaming this whole time, and people were like, what is this guy talking about? Because I'm talking to myself and setting up and everything. So cool. I guess the chat actually starts before the live stream, so that's interesting. Okay, so I am happy to answer any questions. If anybody just jumped on here, this is what we do. We talk tech, and I try to be helpful if I can. Let's see. How is it that we have so many people chatting, but it doesn't show you guys as participants on my thing here? That's weird. Whatever. So in any case, I want to move on to something else that I thought was interesting. And then, by the way, keep the questions coming. That's cool. Or comments. YouTube is doing some really strange things lately, and there's kind of a lot of talk about it, and I felt that it's appropriate to bring it up during this stream because obviously this is what we're using for the stream, and I'm also interested to hear everyone's opinions on this because it's just gotten really weird lately. So if you're not already aware of it, quite a few YouTube creators or publishers, people that make videos like this, are having the monetization, which is, you know, for many people, the reason that they have a YouTube channel. Now, I don't do my YouTube channel to make a living. You know, it generates a small amount of extra cash, but not a whole lot. And really, I try to put that back into the equipment that I'm using for the stream. But there are a few, you know, quite a few people out there who are and or were making their livings on YouTube and have found that for no apparent reason, their channels cannot earn money anymore. Also, a couple very big publishers who had, you know, like over 1 million subscribers found that their channel was just shut off all of a sudden. And it looks like this has to do with advertisers for the most part, as I was kind of mentioning earlier in the stream. I don't know if, you know, everybody's like, has YouTube lost their mind? Because they have this artificial intelligence that kind of decides whose channel is good, whose channel is bad, which ones can be monetized, and so forth. And odd things have been happening to mine for a while, and I just really kind of never thought it was a big thing. You know, I'll publish a video, and I'll have the monetization turned on, and then the next day it will say that it's not appropriate for advertisers. So they turn my, or it may not be appropriate. So they turn my monetization off, and I go, okay, whatever, you know, get a couple hundred views. It's not really a big deal to me. But for a lot of people, you know, if someone publishes something, it gets 10, 20, 30, 100,000 views within the first 48 hours. While YouTube has the monetization turned off, they're losing money. You know, their money is getting lost out of their pocket. And this all seems to have to do with the fact that advertisers are not happy with having their product on channels of, questionable nature or with questionable content. And one of the big problems seems to be these weird cartoons that they've made where they take superheroes and really colorful images, and basically they design these things and they target children, like they're made for kids to watch because they think kids will like this stuff. You have a lot of bright colors, there's like nursery rhymes in the background, but apparently a lot of these videos are just bizarre, obscene, violent. They have a lot of material in them that is not appropriate for children. And so obviously this information got out, the word got out, these advertisers found out about it. On top of that, we have a lot of controversial topics going on, and I totally understand that. If YouTube wants to pull the plug on monetization, or I guess even take someone's channel away if they feel that it's not appropriate, totally fine. A lot of them need to be taken away because we don't have, we shouldn't have that, especially the stuff that's coming through on the YouTube kids channels. Was this material, like it was very offensive material, and it was on the kids YouTube app or the kids YouTube section. So that stuff needs to go away for sure. But people who are also getting caught kind of in this dragnet or whatever it is that they're doing, I feel bad for. And, I hope that my channel stays here. I hope that I haven't published anything that would make an advertiser say that, this is questionable content, but that doesn't seem to be the only reason for concern. It appears as if every once in a while someone just randomly gets caught up for no apparent reason. So I hope this stays here. Someone, I had kind of talked a little bit about this in net neutrality a couple videos back, and someone commented on my channel and said, hey, please don't stop live streaming. And I just want to clarify, I did kind of say a few things to the effect that, if net neutrality goes away, I would be upset enough to the point where I might want to cancel my cable service. But, my plan is to move somewhere else so that I can continue to stream and just be able to take that revenue away from this company that's, going to jump in here and start charging us for one thing at a time. So I just wanted to clarify, I don't have any plans of stopping this whatsoever. And I hope that there's nothing weird on my channel. I know that there's no weird content, but I hope I don't accidentally get caught up in some weird thing that YouTube's doing. I'm sure we all hope the same thing, but there's really no one to go to and say, hey, you guys made a mistake, because Google doesn't do a lot of communicating with too many people for the most part, except for the AdWords team who are selling advertising, because they used to call me all the time. But when it comes to taking care of your channel, it's a little tougher to get a hold of anyone. So I don't plan on this disappearing. And if it does, I'll try to leave some forwarding information on my website, gocellphonerepair.com. But again, I think the chances of that happening are remote. But I just wanted to say, for the record, I'm not planning on discontinuing this live stream for any reason. Okay, John Cassidy, do I use the Protech Toolkit? And also, are you an iFixit Pro members? And are the prices that much better? And I have the Protech Toolkit. I need to start keeping my tools right here so I can just pull them up in front of everyone. I have the original Protech Toolkit from like 3 or 4 years ago. And I got to tell you, I don't use it a lot, but that's not because it's not a good toolkit. It's only because I have a number of different tools, and I think every technician has the tools that they like. So a lot of people like to have a set with interchangeable bits. A lot of people like to have a set that has everything in it. I kind of have one driver from one company for one thing, and another driver from another company for something else. So I think that the Protech Toolkit, for the most part, is a good toolkit. I wouldn't call it a premium toolkit, but it's also not a crappy toolkit. It's kind of in between. It's good. It gets the job done, and it has a lot of drivers in it. It can fit a lot of different things. That's what I like about it. It has probably one of the greatest varieties of toolkits out there that you can find. Now, if you buy it without the fancy little wooden box, it's actually pretty reasonably priced also. Am I an iFixit Pro member? I am not an iFixit Pro member. I know that you can become a member, and then I think you get free shipping, but unfortunately I can't tell you all the details on that because I don't know them. There was a company that I worked for that buys a decent number of parts from iFixit, and for whatever reasons, at the last time I talked about it to them, they were not Protech or Pro members. So I really can't speak for whether or not that's justifiable. It probably depends on how much you're buying. A couple of things about iFixit, and I'm a big fan of theirs. I think what they're doing is awesome. I love the whole iFixit idea. They actually sent me a few tools a while back. I told them I was in the business, and they said, oh, well, let us send you some tools. Really nice people to deal with and everything. If you buy their, I think you'll get great customer service from iFixit. I think their tools are decent. They're good. You know, probably above average would be the right term. Their parts are very good. They have great replacement parts, but you will pay a premium for them. So there is definitely you get what you pay for thing there. So when we came to the point where we were buying parts, you know, on a pretty large scale, we liked iFixit parts, but it wasn't really realistic to buy from them and be able to be competitive in this market, because there were, you know, that number of people who wanted stuff a lot cheaper than what they had, unfortunately. But I think that they have very good quality parts, so I'm a big fan of that. All right, so what else did I have here? I did have some topics here that have to do with phone stuff. So I'm done. I'm off my platform about net neutrality and YouTube. And I wanted to see what everyone thinks about this. Apple is planning, allegedly, now this is a rumor, obviously there are lots of rumors out there, but they're saying that Apple is planning to make an LCD iPhone with a metal case for 2018. In fact, if I remember correctly, they were talking about making two LCDs. Is it either two LCDs and one OLED or vice versa? Let me pull up the article here real quick. And the reason I think this is important for us is because that means that Apple will not be completely dependent on OLED manufacturing, which could become a huge factor. You know, if we don't see another company step in, and there are some Chinese companies that are talking about building facilities to manufacture OLED, but if we don't, and Apple has to buy all of their displays from Samsung, which is what they're currently doing with the 10, that's definitely going to factor into the overall price of the product, and obviously when it comes to parts, that's going to make a difference for us. So the 6.1-inch LCD model will probably have a metal back, they're saying. Now this is from one of those somewhat reliable sources who supposedly has information from the inside with Apple, and there will actually be two OLED handsets with a 6.3 and a 5.8-inch screen. So my guess is going to be that it will be something like an iPhone XS and a XS Plus, or whatever the next generation is. It looks like, you know, we all know the 10 is a big hit, so it seems like they will be likely to stick with that form factor. As far as what the other phone is going to be, the big difference here is going to be that they're saying it's not going to have a glass back. And we all know how everyone feels about the glass back on the iPhone 8, so that might also be good news for us. And or for customers, I should say. Let's see. Hey, this is cool. I'm getting a lot of technical questions, so that's awesome. Let's see. Do you use a glue instead of tape? Sorry for bad English. Goran, it really depends. Goran, do you have a YouTube channel? Because I swear I heard somebody mention your name recently. I'm going to your profile to look right now. Go to channel. Let's look at Goran. Because unless you're just coincidentally have the same name as someone else, nope. You don't do phone, or do you have phone repair stuff here? You have favorites. No, there was a guy named Goran. I think. Are you from Romania by any chance? Because I swear someone was telling me about a YouTube channel for phone repair for a guy named Goran. Anyways, glue instead of tape. I very rarely use glue. It really depends on what you're working with. If you can be more specific, I can give you a better answer. But I really don't like to use glue for almost anything. Probably the only time that I use glue would be if I replaced the camera lens on my iPhone 7 and I had to glue that into place. But I also salvaged the old rubber gasket that was on the inside, because if you don't transfer that over, you're not going to have the water resistance. Where else would I use glue? You know, if you're talking about like people who are using glue around the edges of an iPad, I would never do that. I hate that. I know that it can help things stick, but overall it's bad news for a number of reasons, especially if you have to take the screen back off. You know, it's going to cause some problems, so I really don't like to use glue. I will say that back in the days of before I knew better, back in the days of the iPod Touch 4th generation, there was one corner of the screen that just would not seem to sit down no matter what I did, and I would use a tiny little drop of crazy glue on that. Other than that, I'll use glue occasionally on the tip of my screwdriver to remove a stripped screw. That's one other use for it, but that's about it. I don't typically use glue for just about anything. And let's see. This is really bizarre. Okay, so iPhone 8, metal back, for anyone who does repairs, I guess hopefully I have these slides in order. From Bosnia, okay. I used some Chinese glue, E6000. Well, I have the B7000. You know, actually, you reminded me of something. I did use the B7000 for a while when we got that big batch of iPhone 6 screens where the glass wouldn't stay attached to the frame and it would start lifting up after a while. So, you know, for a period of time, manufacturers didn't realize that the gluing process they were using was failing. So we get these screens in, and after they got out in the heat, they would start lifting up. And so what we did, because we had a whole bunch of inventory at the time, is we just went inside and we added a tiny bit of glue between the frame and the glass just to keep those on. I haven't used a T7000. I used the B7000. I want to say B6000 or something like that, but pretty rarely. I mean, I've had the same tube for quite a while. Let's see if I have these slides in order. Do I? Nope, I don't. Well, okay, we're going to skip here because I have a question for anyone out there who is fixing iPhone 8, and this is a video. This is actually a channel on YouTube. Let's see if I can make this big enough so I can read the guy's name. DJ Repairs. I don't know this person, but he's got a video where he's showing a process that he uses to remove the glass off of the back of an iPhone 8. And I have not had one come in yet, so I haven't had to do this, and I'm really interested to hear from anyone else who might have had to remove one of these yet, and what their success and technique was, of course. More details the better. And the thing about this is that the guy said that he heated this thing up. Well, I've got the same size wrong. He heated this thing up to, I want to say it was like 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and he was able to pry that off. But what I liked about this was that he's actually prying from the inside of the phone. So he pretty much, instead of prying the glass off from the backside, he removed the logic board from the inside and went in with the pry tool around the inside and pried the glass out that way after heating it up to, you know, whatever sufficient temperature it was. Like I said, he said it was 300 degrees. So I'd be interested to know if anyone's worked on one of those yet. I haven't, but I know that it's not going to be easy. And it's probably going to be one of the things about whatever next iPhone comes out next year with the metal back on it that we won't have to worry about, which will be a big relief, and probably a possibility for a glowing logo again, which is, I don't think is going to be realistic on the 8 or the 10. I mean, it could probably be done, but whether or not it's worth the time and energy, unlikely. All right, let me flip through these here real quick, because here's another thing that I thought you all might be interested in, and that is someone who is saying that Apple should switch to a subscription model like Netflix. Okay, so this article is, you know, and we see this stuff happening. It's really crazy. Instead of selling phones and letting people use their phone and then decide whether or not they want to buy another one after that, you know, next generation comes out, this guy, what is his name? Tony Sacconaghi, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, of Bernstein, I'm not sure how that one is either, but he's saying that we believe for Apple to trade at a materially higher multiple, it needs to migrate its transactional selling model to a subscription-based model. So what he's proposing here is that instead of you just buying a new phone when you need one, you kind of lock, you know, Apple locks their customers in by instead having a subscription service, which I was pretty sure they had something like this that you could already do. But for them to focus on getting customers to pay for a subscription that allows them to get a new phone every so often. So like maybe in, you know, 2 years from now or a year and a half or whatever it is, you just keep paying X dollars a month and you get upgraded to whatever next iPhone comes out. And I'm not sure it would always be the flagship, but I would assume that that's what everyone would want. And you know, the big problem that I see with that, I mean, obviously there's a huge group of people who love Apple and they're happy with iPhones and they want to have iPhones forever, you know, but obviously we have no guarantee that iPhones will be of the same quality and, you know, same performance and same everything 5 years from now, you know, much less 1 year from now. So the idea of kind of locking someone into a plan where you're now a subscriber to our phones, you're not a customer, you're not a consumer, you don't buy it. And I would also question, like, what kind of agreements come along with that? You know, what's going to be written into that contract? As a subscription, what are you, and you know, what are you allowed and not allowed to do with your phone? is it at that point going to be a situation where they go, oh, if you want to install this application and you have to pay extra for it? It sounds like a great idea from a stockholder perspective, but I think not only as a consumer and as someone who works on phones, that would be a good idea. Think about the implications. For one, it's going to give most people an even bigger incentive to go to Apple anytime they have a problem with their phone. And if you happen to have an iPhone, and for any reason you're thinking, well, I wonder what it would be like to use a different device other than something running iOS, you're going to be much less likely to do so. Once people subscribe to something and everything's set up to where it comes out of your account automatically every month, and it's really just there, even when you think, hey, I might want to migrate to something different, you're much less likely to do that when you're locked into some sort of contract, or even if you just have that auto pay set up. So for me, this is a concern, because I think it's pushing more and more against people having any kind of choice and saying, we don't care if you don't like the iPhone 11. This is part of your subscription. This is what you get. So to me, that's kind of crazy. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens at the same time. Where do I get my iPhone 6s batteries from? That is a good question. I don't do the battery purchasing, so I will have to get back to you on that one, John. I don't have a supplier handy. I don't... where were we buying them from before? We were buying from... we're actually buying from a place in San Francisco that's not in business any longer, so I can't give you their name because I wouldn't do you any good. Actually, they have an app. Who else would might be a good option if you're buying in quantity is to check out eTrade Supply. There's another one. I'm going to think of it in a minute. There actually is another one that someone recommended to me, and I'm going blank on it right now. I'll come back through this when I do the timestamps, and I will add a link down in the bottom. There is a good, reputable battery supplier for 6S batteries, and it might even be one of the companies that I just mentioned, but I can't say for sure, so I'll need to go back and check. But off the top of my head, I don't know because I don't do the battery purchases. So I can't give you an instant answer. Backing up here a second, we did this, and this Galaxy Note 8, does anyone have one of these? And does this not look like a very awkward phone? I don't know what it is, but to me, it's just too tall. I don't, proportionally speaking. Oh, and speaking of, I was going to show you all this. I have, guess what? You will never guess what I have. I have another, let's see if we can get this in the light, right? Anyways, that is a Galaxy Note 7 that is really difficult to photograph, okay? I have the world's last Galaxy Note 7, selling it to the highest bidder. No, actually, this is a Note 7 that someone held on to because they did not want to just turn it in and get a refund. They wanted to wait till the Galaxy Note 8 came out, and now they decided, okay, I'm getting my Galaxy Note 8. Let's send this thing in and see if we can get a refund. So, will Samsung still give people money back for the Galaxy Note 7? I'm going to find out next Monday. I'm planning during the live stream to do a phone call with Samsung, get them on the line during the live stream. If I can figure out how to get the audio into the stream, that is my plan. And I'm going to have the conversation with them and see if we can get them to replace this. Although that's going to be a little goofy because I'm going to have to give them a whole bunch of personal information on the phone. So anyways, I'll see what I can work around to make that happen. But yes, they're still out there, and I bet there's still people who have this phone, and I'm trying to imagine what they might say other than, yeah, send it back, because how would they want me to keep a phone that could become a liability or make them look bad? So we'll find out next Monday. But that Note 8, I gotta say, it looks even taller. I guess it's not that much different, right, than this. Does it look about like the same dimensions? I don't know. To me, it just looks like these phones keep getting taller and taller, and I understand it's got to fit in your hand, but to me it looks a bit awkward. And with the price tag, $923, I realize it's a bigger phone than the iPhone 10, but that's a pretty steep price point, I think, for a Galaxy anything, based on the fact that Android devices tend to depreciate so fast. Samsung's recent track record with batteries and a number of other factors really makes me question whether that $900 price point is going to succeed long term or even short term. I suppose we shall find out. I already talked about that. Here's an interesting one. If you have an Amazon Fire Stick, apparently at the first of the year you will not be able to stream YouTube anymore. So there is some problem going on between these two companies. Google and Amazon have a disagreement. My understanding is that because this is the way I read it. Now I may be off on this, but this is the way that it makes sense to me. And that is that Amazon, when they decided to start selling the Fire Stick, in order to promote those sales, they have apparently taken Chromecast off of their website. So you cannot buy a Chromecast on Amazon. That is my understanding. And the reason being because they didn't want to have any competition with their USB device or, you know, whatever it is that plugs into your TV. I don't actually have a Fire Stick, but I do have Google Chromecast. So Google said, okay, if you are not going to carry Chromecast on your website, then you are not going to put YouTube, or at least the YouTube app, into your Fire Stick. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, what's going to happen because of this. After the first of the year, anyone who has the Fire Stick can't get YouTube anymore. You have a couple choices. You can buy a different device that will allow you to stream YouTube through a wireless connection, or you will, I think many people will be forced to get a, I don't want to say a jailbreak, but it's pretty much the equivalent of a jailbreak for their Fire Stick. And will that allow them to play YouTube? I mean, because YouTube's a big thing. Obviously, there are quite a few people using it. And to suddenly take that away, I mean, it's like they are playing hardball now. So I wonder if these types of disagreements may not escalate in the future to the point where every company, you know, I know I keep coming back to this, but with things like net neutrality, when someone takes complete control of the access that you have to anything, it really opens up a lot of possibilities as far as what they can do to profit from being able to manipulate that service. And this is no different. You know, if Google can say, hey, you can't put YouTube in Fire Stick anymore. Theoretically, at some point, they could say you can't put the YouTube app in an iPhone, or you can't put the YouTube app in this particular brand of phone, or you can't put a YouTube app in a device that is manufactured in this specific region. So you see what I'm getting at here. And it's not just, you know, not just Google, Amazon, Apple, any other manufacturer out there. I believe that, you know, they say that we live in the information age now. And I've always kind of questioned, like, what is the next age? What comes after the information age? Is it the space travel age? Is it the artificial intelligence age? Is it the age of robotics, you know, RoboCop and killer stuff? But, you know, more than likely, it looks like it might become the age of copyrights and litigation, where every company wants to take control of the things that people buy more and more, to the point where they start buying these technologies, you know, like I kind of talked about last week, you know, with Apple buying this foldable phone technology, even though they may have no plans in the near future to create a foldable phone. They may be able to block someone else from making it if they own the patent for whatever period of time until it expires, or give them the option to sell that patent to another competitor that wants to build something, you know, that fits that design or whatever's outlined in that patent. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens if these things start teaming up to the point where, you know, if you want YouTube, you have to have Android, and if you want, I don't know, something else that you can get on iPhone, you can only get it through iPhone. You can't get it anywhere else. I mean, I guess they kind of have a lot of that stuff already. But Google and Amazon getting into that game will be very interesting. And it wouldn't surprise me if Microsoft and a few other companies start doing the same thing. The next age will be the age of jailbreaking. Those are my thoughts exactly, Arthur. If it comes to the point where people can't get their devices to do something that they are completely capable of, and we saw this, you know, just a few years ago when AT&T was the only company that sold the iPhone, and people said, I don't want AT&T, but I want an iPhone. Well, here comes jailbreaking to fix that problem so that you can get around the network lock that's built into the phone. If you had an early generation, like an iPhone 3G, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze here. If you have had an iPhone 3G and it had a camera built in it, but it could not record video, although it was entirely capable of recording video, oh, well, someone who does jailbreaks knows how to make that happen. So, and you know, I always say I don't want to pick on Apple specifically, and obviously this is somewhere else. This is Amazon we're talking about. But it's not really Amazon that's blocking the app. It's actually Google. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think that if we get to the point where all these manufacturers really start to limit what people can do and start trying to charge subscription fees and saying, hey, if you want your tablet to be able to also, I don't know, use face recognition, or you want to be able to connect to a 4G data LTE network. Oh, it's built in. You already have that capability, but now you have to pay an upgrade or for a subscription, or kind of like the whole gaming thing with EA, where you buy a game and you don't get to unlock the character unless you pay them a microtransaction of some sorts. It may be the age of jailbreaking, and I think we're already kind of into the age of microtransactions for the most part, and it's discouraging because again, as a consumer, to see companies that offer just amazing things and then turn around and say, well, but we're not going to give it all to you until you just pay a little bit more. So it's there. We'll tease you with it. But again, probably one of the effects of free enterprise. Now, I am always, of course, coming from a position of someone who's in the U.S. I know that a lot of people out there are not in the U.S., so a lot of these laws might be different for you, and I hope in many cases they're better. But at least for here, for the audience that's in the U.S. and in many cases in Canada, the laws tend to work similar when it comes to a lot of this stuff. So that's kind of silly, but I would love to see jailbreaking come back to a certain extent for the advantages that it offers. Unfortunately, there are some security concerns that most people have when it comes to jailbreaking, so that's the downside. But you got to take the good with the bad, right? Did I have anything else on here? I did. Oh, I was we were talking about the iPhone 8 and how the weak spot. Where'd I go? Where's my slide here? Here you go. Okay, so the iPhone 8. Glass on the back obviously breaks, and I was thinking about the consumers reports that I read. They were actually talking about the Galaxy Note 8. So on this thing, and by the way, Consumer Reports rated the iPhone 10 not as good as the iPhone 8 and not as good as the Samsung Galaxy Note. Can you believe that? Okay, why would they say that? How dare you say anything's not as good as the iPhone 10? Well, Consumer Reports says that the iPhone 10 is too expensive and too fragile, and this is a topic that comes out all the time. I can't read the whole article obviously, but what they said is that the 8 and the 8 Plus are more resistant to breaking, and that the problem with the iPhone 10 is that it is too easy to damage. It's too easy to crack, for the screen to chip, for all sorts of things to go wrong with it because of the glass design. And I don't know why the iPhone 8 is so much tougher, but they seem to feel that way. But this is the thing, phones break. That's what they do. They're made out of glass, and a lot of people feel that, I can't believe I only dropped my phone 10 times, and on the 11th one it broke. Well, it's really not designed to break, and I can never communicate this effectively enough to customers. That is that Gorilla Glass is made to be scratch resistant. Pressure is a different thing. If you push down hard on it with something that's not the same, that's a lesser hardness than the glass, you can still scratch it just because of the pressure. When it hits the ground, you're definitely going to have some problems. For those people, I recommend this. This is the Cat phone. I don't know if you all have seen this, but there are some phones that are really, really, really durable. And these guys sent out an email, I assume, to everyone that's on their email list, and asked if anyone who's in a very rugged industry wants to be in an upcoming video where they follow you around at work and you use one of their phones and put it through the paces and see how durable it is. So if anyone has a job where you are in often in situations where your phone will become damaged, you might want to reach out to Cat. They want to get people in their video to kind of show this phone being used and how tough it is. And I saw one of the earlier models. It wasn't the one with the FLIR camera. It was about 2 or 3 years ago, and you could throw this thing across the parking lot and it would not break. The downside, of course, being it's not going to have a state-of-the-art processor. It's not going to have facial recognition like the iPhone. It's not going to have a lot of the really advanced technologies that people look for, but it will be a durable phone if that's what you're looking for. And with that, I think that was all for this evening. I made it in just over an hour, and I do want to thank everyone who came on. I will be back again on Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I really appreciate if you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, that will also help me out. And if you know other people in the business, don't be shy. Let them know. Get them in here. My plan is to have as many people who are interested in tech and technology and phone repair to come in here at one time, a couple times a week maybe, and just kind of discuss some ideas so that we can all benefit. So I will be back next Thursday at 6 p.m. I'll be back before that, Monday at 2 p.m. I think I already said that. But again, thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate it. Have a great evening. And the Casio G-Zone, and I was almost going to click on the button. The Casio G-Zone, we actually had a company that brought us like 6 of those things. I guess they kind of retired them out of their inventory. And if I remember correctly, that is the one that is very difficult to find a charger for, isn't it? Because I think the problem that we had is that it wasn't a standard charge port and the chargers were difficult to find. I think that was a problem that we had. But yeah, it was a very tough phone. Casio is pretty amazing. When I saw that brand name on a phone, I was like, wow, I remember these from longer ago than I care to admit on a lot of watches that I used to wear as a kid. Probably the first digital watches ever. Do I have a recommendation for EMMC Reader for chip-off recovery? I don't, Nate. I don't have one that I've used firsthand, so I can't really recommend anyone. I know that they're out there, but I've watched a couple videos, but I can't really see. It was a micro USB. I can't really recommend anyone specifically because I haven't bought one and used it and can say, hey, I endorse this thing. So not right now. I'll see what I can come up with though. It was micro USB. Okay, then it must be another one. There was another Casio that had some sort of oddball charger on it, and I don't remember what it was. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave this open for a little bit because I was about ready to jump off, and then questions came in, and I don't want to end the stream if people are still here. But I will be closing this pretty soon. But yeah, I'll see what I can find, Nate. I know some people in the business who can probably give me better information as far as what would be good for EMMC. I remember reading about one recently that was relatively... are you looking for it for a specific brand? Because I think there's one that you can get for LG because they're having so many problems right now with a number of their different phones. And it's pretty reasonable. I want to say it was like, gosh, I hope I'm not wrong, but I want to say it was like $279, like under $300 if I remember correctly. Now I think that it only does, LG and maybe a few other phones. It seems to me like they were specific as, obviously as far as what chip they will handle and how and what sizes. But I'll get you a recommendation as soon as I can. And all right. Other than that, there's 40-second lag here, so I'm going to wait 40 seconds. And this time when I end it, the reason it's important for me to know when I'm getting off here is for the end of the video so that it doesn't just show like a blank end screen for 15 minutes, because obviously that's kind of a waste for anyone who's watching, so I want to make sure I time it properly. And then again, if anyone comes in at this point and I'm just sitting here doing nothing, well, there's a reason. That's because the stream's almost over. Okay, anyways, guys, again, thank you very much for joining. I really appreciate it. And apparently you can get on the chat before the live stream actually starts, but I won't be able to answer you until I'm here, but that's good to know. I'm glad we figured that out tonight. All right, so I will see you all later. Have a great week. I'll be back on Monday if you can come by, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If not, I'll see you next time.